My name is James Lee, and I was born and raised in Texas, and I now live in Northern California, and I have about a year and a half left of college. It all started in the fall before I started college, and one day I was at home with my mom and she started complaining of severe stomach pains. And so we brought her to the hospital, and after some tests were done, it was determined that she had colon cancer. And so at that time, I actually wasn't that worried yet, but it was after a few more months that they decided to run some extra tests to see if the cancer had spread. And they found that the cancer had spread to her lymph nodes. And when, at that time, they told us that there was a 3 in 4 chance that she would make it past 5 years. And that's when I started to be more stressed and more nervous, because while a 3 in 4 chance sounds like very good chances, on the other hand, a 1 in 4 chance is still a very good chance that she's not going to make it past 5 years. At that time, she started to undergo chemotherapy and also radiation treatments. By the summer after my second year of college, my mom's condition had worsened and she was very weak. She required somebody to be around at all times so that they could help her get around the house. She also would just spend most of her day in bed because she was very weak. And there was a 2-day period, I remember, where I had to stay with her for both nights. And the nights were very restless because I had to help her up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, or we needed to give her medication in the middle of the night. All of this led up to the biggest argument that I had with my mom. Following those 2 nights, my mom was asking me if I was really tired because of the sleepless nights, and that there were going to be a lot of hospital visits in the upcoming week. And so my reply was that, well, my sister Esther would be coming into town the following week, and so I thought that it would be okay, that I'd be able to handle it. When I said that, well, at least my sister was coming, she, since I didn't make a lot of phone calls during the school year and a lot of missed calls from her during the school year, then she felt that I didn't want to help to take care of her. We started arguing about this, and during the argument we called my sister, and what my sister told me was that she really wished that she could be there to help take care of our mom then, because she said that when our father had passed away when I was 7 years old, that she had learned then that we should try to help to take care of our parents when they're still around, because sometimes that opportunity is taken away from us before we are ready. After about 2 or 3 weeks, I left home to attend a church seminar in New Jersey. And at that church seminar, I spent a lot of time praying about my mom. And I really thank God for the love of the brothers and sisters who also spent their time to pray with me as well. And about a week after I arrived at the seminar, my sister called and told me that my mom's condition had gotten worse. And so after discussing with her, we decided that I would return home the following day. And so that evening, they made a special announcement, and there was a special prayer asking everyone to pray for my mom. I remember that right after that prayer, a few brothers came up to me and said, "Let's go pray again." And immediately as we went forward to the front of the chapel to pray, then I heard everyone else also come forward to pray with us. I really was very touched and moved by the love of all the brothers and sisters at the seminar. When I returned home, my mom's condition was actually a lot worse than I expected. My sister had been giving my mom some stronger medications, and since then she wasn't able to form words, but the only forms of communication that she had for us was that she would make these small grunts. That night, I spent the night with my mom, and the following afternoon, my mom passed away. I really thank God that He allowed me to return home before my mom passed, because originally I wasn't supposed to go back for another week, and even initially after hearing the news I wasn't set on it, but then really thank God for helping us to make that decision to go home immediately so that I could see my mom one more time before she passed. Following this, a few days later, we had the funeral, and in the days leading up to the funeral, we had a lot of relatives staying over at our house. And so everything was very busy and I didn't have a lot of time on my hands. But immediately following after the funeral, once everyone left, then I had 3 days left before I had to return back to school. And those 3 days were the most terrifying days of my life, because I couldn't remember or couldn't feel how these days passed. I just know that day 1 passed by, then day 2, then day 3, and then it was time to go back to school. So when I returned back to school, I was hoping that I wouldn't have enough time to think about things, because I was hoping that my school schedule would keep me busier. But as I returned, I realized that it really didn't make a difference at all. I remember where I skipped all my classes and I just sat in my room the entire week. And at that time, I remember wishing that God didn't exist, because if God didn't exist, then I could kill myself. And that really was perhaps the darkest time of my life. During the winter break following this semester, I went and visited my sister for about 2 to 3 weeks. And up until that time, I really had been struggling with all of these feelings for the entire semester. And so during that winter break, during that vacation, I spent a lot of time talking to my sister, and she started asking a lot of questions. And I think during that time is when I really felt that everything collapsed. And long story short, I made the decision to move out to stay with my sister for the following semester, to spend that time to recollect myself. I really experienced how God will make a way. I don't know if I had returned at that time to school where I would be now. I think that before that winter break, I was already really close to the breaking point. And even though during that winter break, I was able to relieve some of that pressure, but if I had gone back, I'm pretty sure that I would have passed the breaking point. And it really reminds me of the verse, 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13, which states that no temptation has overtaken you except such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will also make the way of escape, that you may be able to bear it. So after I went back to my sister's place, she helped me start looking for an internship so that I wasn't doing nothing during that period of time. And thank God that He allowed me to find an internship. And this internship lasted for about 4.5 months. And at the end of that 4.5 months, I felt at ease returning back to school. I wanted to share a few things that I learned from the year following my mom's passing. First is that truly without God, life is meaningless. And because I really felt that without God, I really would have ended my life during that time. The second is something I realized while I was staying at my sister's house. It always felt weird to me to say I'm going to go home, because I never felt like I was going home. Even though it was my sister's house, it didn't feel like home to me. Home used to be where my mom was. It was where my family was. But since my mom was gone and my sisters were both married, I really didn't know where home was anymore. And I found that the only place I really felt the warmth of home was when I was at church. And I really think it was both the love of God and the love of the brothers and sisters that allowed me to feel at home when I was at church. So I'd like to welcome you to come and join us at the True Jesus Church, to come and let God care for you just as He cares for me.